One, two, three, four.
Welcome to the High Performance CEO Show, your exclusive insight into the strategies and success habits of the world's top CEOs. I'm your host, Sebastian Schieke, entrepreneur, mentor, and business angel. Prepare to grow your business, enhance your leadership skills, and thrive in today's world. Let's dive in. Hey, welcome to another episode of the High Performance CEO Show. Today we talk about the most important asset in our businesses. And this is not our clients, these are our talents. And I have Steve van Remortel with me. Amazing guy. He's the founder and CEO of My Talent Planner. And yeah, he helps leaders win the battle for talents through talent planning, and obviously also has amazing software for that. He is 3 times author, investor, speaker, and primarily he's an amazing guy who knows a lot about talent planning. So Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you for having me on.
Before we started this conversation, you said, okay, we're not talking about talent management, we talk about talent planning, you know? And I just want to elaborate on that because, I mean, this is so important. We all try to manage our human resources, yeah? Which are obviously not resources and we should manage them. So tell me about your definition of or the difference between planning and management.
Yeah, so think about it, Sebastian. We have all these plans in our life, right? I counted that I have 26 plans in my business and in my life combined, health insurance plan, 401k plan. But why don't we put a plan in place for the number one issue facing our business, or the number one asset that we have in our company, which is the talent, which is our people? How come we don't put a talent plan in place? And so talent planning is very different than talent management in that talent planning, you're working upstream to optimize your people and resolve any people issues before they impact the business. And so talent management gives me this sense of it's very much in the moment and it's dealing with problems. Talent planning is working upstream, working into the future and laying out a 3-year talent plan for your leadership team, or laying out a 3-year talent plan for any department team you have, and laying out a talent plan for each team member in your business. So in our world, there's a significant difference between talent planning and talent management.
I like this idea of having a kind of a 3-year plan, but I would argue you shouldn't even start with the leadership team. Yeah? I think you probably have to start with the top of the organization, the CEO. So every leader has to start planning his own development, right?
That is correct. Yeah, and part of the leadership team talent plan is the development plan for each member of the leadership team, including the CEO, including the leader.
Because this is what companies or people in leadership roles often forget. They think, I have to manage, I have to develop my team. But first, they have to develop themselves, right? Because, we have to go in front. We have to be the role model. We want our employees, our team.
I just had this conversation with a leader last week in a session that, before we can lead others, we have to lead self. Before we can care for others, we have to care for self. Some of the people some of the leaders, the strongest leaders in my life have cracked, lately, just like they're showing that they need to care for themselves more. Because if you're not caring for self, how are you going to care for others,
Yeah. If you fly in a plane, and they tell you, in case of an emergency, the mask drop down, and what do? No, you don't do this with your neighbor or your kid first. You put it on your own face, Why is that? Yeah, because only if you survive, you can help your kid, If you struggle, then the people really need your help. They don't get it. So self-care is very important. But why is this that people don't focus so much or hardly on self-care, I see this in my practice. I see this with people I work, they grind through, they push through life, they do everything, but they never stop, they never reflect, and they never take care of themselves. Yeah, why is that?
Leaders that take the servant leadership approach where you turn the org structure upside down and they're there to serve their team, right? That is the approach. That is the approach you need to take in leadership. but you get so wrapped up in serving the team that you forget about serving self or taking care of self. And, and a lot of leaders come in with this work hard, philosophy, work hard, play hard philosophy. I mean, I have to set aside time just for self in today's world and, with all the challenges that we all face individually. So we have a tendency to forget about us.
Yeah, and you said it right. You have to schedule time with yourself. You have to really put it in the plan to follow up on. Otherwise, life happens, and you will end up going to bed at night and saying, okay, I had this one, I had that one, but what did it do for me? Nothing. Yeah. So how does a typical plan, a talent plan in your world look like? I mean, what would you put in place? How do you evaluate the status quo and then how you go forward?
So good question. So in the talent planning process, there's three key pillars, we call them, or foundations. The first one is that your strategy is in the talent planning process, your vision. And people often ask me, why is your strategy part of talent planning? And it's because in order for us to know what people we need, we first have to know where we're going. And so in talent planning, you have the strategy or the strategic vision of your organization, you have the talent vision, and then you have the execution phase, because you can have all the plans in place you want, but if you don't execute it, right, it's not going to bring you much value. So in our world, having your strategy, your strategic plan, your talent plans, and your execution plan all wrapped together is the full Monty, so to speak. It's the three legs of the stool that you need to really work on the business and accelerate your business forward.
I agree. I mean, execution is often the lacking point,
Yeah.
I mean, people are often enthusiastic. We need to do this, we do it in a workshop, whatever. And then people are all hyped up, and then boom, business happens, life happens, and people don't follow through. And then they question themselves, this doesn't work, yeah?
Yeah, so let me talk a little bit about what's in a talent plan. So in a talent plan, and what I always tell leaders as I explain this is think about your team as you're going through this. So what are the strengths of our team that we need to leverage? What are the blind spots of our team that we need to resolve as part of this talent plan? Who are the high potentials that we have to retain as part of this process? And just think about your team. What succession plans do we have to put in place? What is the development priorities for each member of the team right now? And then one of the big ones is what's the prioritized order of promotions and new hires you're going to make if we're using a 3-year vision and use a 3-year talent vision? What are the prioritized promotions and hires you're going to make over the next 3 years? And really what talent planning is meant to do is to get your team from where it is today. Let's say we're a $20 million company and our vision is to get to $30 million in 3 years. Where does our team need to be in 3 years to support and be a $30 million company executing this strategy? So it's succession planning, it's hiring and promotions, it's development, it's retention. And that's why a lot of times will say, oh, talent planning, it's retention. No, it's all of it. It's all of it wrapped into one plan on what you need to get done over the next 3 years to take your team from where it is today to where it needs to be to achieve that vision.
How do you motivate the team members? So you talked about, okay, the vision of the company. Yeah, okay, we go from 20 to 30 million. This is primarily driven by the owners, by the CEO. But what is in for them? I mean, how do you sell them that it's good to develop themselves, that it's good to grow?
So the first thing I would tell you is that why do team members love talent planning? Because it develops the total person. We just don't develop the work person. We develop the total person. So in the development plan component of talent planning, you have your professional goals, but you also have your personal goals. What things do you want to accomplish outside of work that we can invest in? And so team members love this concept of developing the total person. The next thing about talent planning is that we use behavioral science when we talent plan because it provides us objective information as to how we can help this person achieve the greatest level of success in their professional and personal life. And one of the sciences that we use that is in our process and also in the software is the motivators. And so what motivates a person? And then when you feed that number one motivator, they're going to be more engaged. They're going to love their job. And so what's in it for them? A job that they love to do, their motivators get fed, and the company is developing the total person on what they want to accomplish in their life. An example of that I can throw you is I have a client that has technicians that goes out every day to service equipment at their clients, on site at their clients. So they have about 75 technicians. Well, through these one-on-one development plans and through their talent plan for the individual, one of them wants to open a bait shop, for fishing, BAIT. And so they're investing in him learning about running a business. And so in 5 years, when he retires or when he leaves his current occupation, the company's going to invest in him having a successful bait shop. But the next 5 years, that employee is going to be really engaged, a very high performer. And when he leaves, he will be an incredible ambassador for that company, which only helps your talent attraction. And the way it really breaks down, Sebastian, is that when you look at the 4 generations in the workforce, the baby boomers and the Gen Xers, they were because their parents and their grandparents talked about the Great Depression and stuff. They're motivated by financial security, by getting ahead in the world. But then their kids saw their parents sacrifice everything for financial security. And the Gen Ys, the millennials, and the Gen Zs are like, I don't want that life, right? So they have totally different motivators that they bring to the workforce. One of them being what's called the harmonious, which is they want work-life balance. They don't want to build for this thing in the future. They want to live today, right? So when your motivators are being fed, you love what you do. And so that's another huge benefit of talent planning is it's not going to work. It's going to your career, going to something you love to do every day.
I love this. Yeah. And this is something which really makes a difference, when people feel that you care for them. You as a business owner, you care, and they're not just a resource, how they're often called in big corporates. So they are individuals who have needs, who have desires, and our job as business owners is developing them, is helping them. We talked about this. I do this similar team development workshops, and I run a workshop with a development company with about 160, 170 developers. We did a remote workshop, and some of those people, first of all, they never talk to each other, because they are in a virtual team and big company, so they hardly knew who's working there. And then they said, okay, this is amazing. The first time somebody cares for us, someone really thinks about how we grow as individuals, and he put a development plan together in those 5 days, and this was an amazing experience for them, and of course it has benefits for the company, because if you have motivated employees who see a purpose and who see that the company helps them and cares for them, it's a game changer.
There was another example, 150-person company. We just, trained on talent planning and put them on the software. And why did they go on the software? Because they have 150 people, about 30 of them are in the office, and they have total retention in the office. But on the shop floor, they can have up to 50% turnover in some positions. And they're meeting with everybody in the office, but they're not meeting one-on-one and investing in the shop floor team. And so now we're training their frontline supervisors on how to do one-on-ones and how to put development plans in place, because all those people on the shop floor want to know is that you're investing in me and my future and my family, because I come every day to invest in and help build the company. That's all they want to know. So the retention rates are already starting to go through the roof, because why? Just what we said, you're meeting with them consistently, usually monthly, and making sure that they're in a good place. And how can things get better? And is there anything that, we need to do for you as an organization to help you enjoy your work more and enjoy coming to the office?
So you basically, you have a program which you use to train them, but you also have a software where you probably put the plan in. And so how does it work? And how is the software structured? And is it for every employee or just for the management?
Okay, so good question. So it's called My Talent Planner. And my talent planner was built because we found a kind of a gap in the marketplace. I saw the technology disruption coming in the talent or the strategic HR space. It happened in the tactical space 20 years ago with Paycor, Paycom, Paylocity, but it's happening in the strategic space now. And so basically what we discovered through a lot of interviews with small and medium-sized businesses is if you have less than 500 employees, there is not a software that helps you win at talent, that helps you win at strategic HR. You know, just to be in business, you have to win at tactical HR, but to win in your industry, you have to win at strategic HR. And so we wanted to find a software that we could use to help our clients, and there wasn't one, so we ended up building it. And what we built was a software that guides companies through talent planning so that they can do it on their own. Self-serve, it's what it's called in the SaaS industry. And so a company can use an advisor, what we call a talent planning advisor, which they're positioned all over the United States, or you can do it yourself, which is what we encourage companies to do. And oftentimes we'll train them on it, and then they're off and running, and they want to execute it on their own, which is, we believe, the right way to do it, because the only way you can win at talent is if it becomes part of your culture, part of your organization.
Yeah. You need to live it.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've put all these assessment in, like motivators,
Yep.
and there are plenty of different type of assessments, and then you basically get an overview about the organization, about the strengths, weaknesses, about motivations, and then based on that, is there a plan of action which results from this status quo?
Yeah, just to explain the software, the navigation of it, you first have the process, so that's so you can do it yourself. Then you have strategy, which is the strategic vision, the financial vision of your organization. Under the talent tab, you have your current organizational structure, which you have the avatars of everybody, and everybody can see, has role clarity on who reports to who and who is responsible for what. Then you have the talent vision of where our structure needs to be in 3 years, right, to be that $30 million company we talked about. There's team wheels, there's 9-box. But then to your point about execution, there's the goals and action plans component of it. And we execute in sprints. So I prefer 4-month sprints for our company. A lot of our clients prefer 3-month sprints, so it ties with the fiscal year. But you execute, so you set your goals and your action plans for 4 months, you execute. You have what we call a sprint meeting. You see how we did, and you see if there's any changes that need to be made to your strategy and your talent vision. And then you set your goals for the next 4 sprint and the action plans to achieve them, and you execute again. Basically, every sprint is another step towards that 3-year vision that you put out there.
Yeah, I like this concept of sprints. It makes things more tangible. It's something. There's a deadline, there's an end of a process, end of a period, and then you start again. Do they also interact with each other, the team? I mean, do you install? I mean, of course, we need kind of a mindset and culture shift in an organization where people help each other without being asked, How do you leverage that? I mean, how do you implement this long-lasting change within an organization?
So as you know, the organization functions to the same level that the leadership team does. So we start at the leadership team level, and we have you talked about a team development. So there's 7 steps to the talent planning process. Number 1 is prep. That's just getting ready for the process. Number 2 is the team development exercise. And this is where, affectionately, a lot of teams call it getting the team in their underwear, where you really talk about who you are and the issues and the challenges that you have in your life. And you basically put it all out there. And during that session, man, you just watch the team come together. It's just so cool because, everybody, what the saying we have in team development, Sebastian, is everybody has issues. And if someone tells you that they don't, that's their first one.
They're lying.
Right? That's their first one. That's their first one. So the second step is team development. And why did I put that as a second step? Because the next step is writing your strategy. It's a strategy session. And so I started doing strategy and talent planning 25 years ago, and I'd get the leadership team in a room and we'd start talking about strategy, and everybody was kind of quiet, right? And everyone's kind of feeling the process out, and we weren't ready to write strategy is really what it came down to. So the team development exercise gets your team in the place. to have the most candid and vulnerable conversations possible to make sure you write the best strategy for the business. Step 4 then is the talent vision session. So you laid out where you want your organization to be in 3 years. Now lay out where your talent needs to be in 3 years. Step 5 is when you put the talent plan together for the leadership team. Step 6 is when you do it in each department. And then 7 is execution. And you get into this cadence of meetings that give us discipline, a rhythm, a cadence to execute the plan. So those are the 7 steps in a real simple overview.
Okay. And then, of course, you have a loop back feed to see what is working, what is not. And then
within that cadence, you have plan execution meeting, which is either monthly. We do ours every 2 weeks here just so we stay current, but you're constantly evaluating, is everybody getting their stuff done? Accountability is part of a high performance team. And so that's a key part of it.
I like the structure. Yeah, it's very important to really have discipline and schedule things. Otherwise, they won't happen.
Nothing happens.
People rush off. And when you talk to prospect, how urgent is this topic with the people you talk to? What I often see that, yes, we should develop them, but there are more important things, First, we need to grow the business, We get more clients, and then we can focus on our talent, especially in larger companies.
So there's 10.8 million jobs open right now in the United States, 10.8 million. And if you look at generational math, which I've studied significantly, there's more baby boomers leaving the workforce than there are Gen Zs coming in, right? So, you have the economic downturn a little bit that might add some workers back into that pool. You have artificial intelligence. They're saying it's going to take 10 to 15% of the workforce. You have immigration. But are those 3 things combined going to put 11 million additional people into the workforce? No.
Probably not.
And so the sense of urgency on this is that it is where it is today. It's the number one issue for small and medium-sized businesses, no question about it. And generational math tells us it's going to remain that way. Is it going to be 11 million open positions, 5 million, 20 million? No one has a crystal ball on that, but I would tell you that there's going to be open positions for, in my lifetime moving forward, just because the math tells us that. So what does that tell you? The number one issue for SMBs limiting their growth are people-related issues. And that's not going to change. And so now, because of that, what are proactive leaders doing? They're using technology to win at talent because it can make it easier, can make them more effective. And so now you're seeing the technology disruption that is accelerating because more and more companies are using technology to solve the number one issue that's limiting their growth. And so that's kind of, I do a lot of speaking on the future of talent, especially for small and medium-sized businesses. And that's the future. There's always going to be a shortage. And if you want to get ahead of your competitors, start using technology to resolve that issue, because that's where it's headed.
In the States, primarily in the States, you had this great resignation. This phase 2 years ago, basically after the pandemic sort of came to slow down, and people started realizing, this is not what I want to do all of my life. And they left their jobs, and not a few, many.
40% of the baby boomer generation retired during the pandemic. That's crazy. A half of a generation.
They retired, and some decided to, step out and maybe do something completely different.
Or nothing at all.
Do an early retirement.
Yeah.
And I think this is something which everyone needs to really have in mind when thinking about, should I develop my talent? Should I put a plan in or not?
Yeah. What I have seen, Sebastian, is that when you pick an industry, and you can pick a geographic area if you want, or you can talk national. But when you pick an industry and pick a geographic area, and you look in that industry and who's winning the industry, who's dominating their industry, who's number one, I guarantee you they excel at the people side of the business. I guarantee it, because we have a ton of clients that dominate their industry because they're really good at people, the people-related stuff that they're dealing with every day. And it's not that they rely on outside parties. It's just they get really good at it themselves. And so that's our number one philosophy is we don't want to do it for you. We want to teach you how to do it, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to execute this to the level where you're going to dominate your industry. And why do you dominate your industry? Because your people issues are this big and your competitors are this big, right? And I have data to prove that and show that if your people issues are minimized, you're going to win in your industry. So we have a saying that if you win at talent, you win in your industry. You dominate your industry.
I like this statement. If you win at talent, if you want to win in your industry, start winning at your talent.
Yeah, there you go. In a question form. I love that.
Everyone wants to grow. Yeah. So what is the number one? I mean, we can't grow our business on our own. I mean, actually, as a leader, you should work as little as possible, you know? You should be on the business, not in the business.
Yeah.
And you should have a thriving team who runs the show for you. Yeah. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. Yeah. You should be able to fire yourself from the business. And in order to achieve this, have an amazing team.
That is correct.
Thank you so much, Steve. Is there anything else you would like to share before we wrap up? I mean, where can people find you? Probably which social network are you more active?
I'll share my contact information, then a parting thought. On LinkedIn, Steve Van Remortel. Website is mytalentplanner.com. It's steve@mytalentplanner.com. And that's our software company, and the consulting firm is steve@stopthevanilla.com. And so we'd love to talk and chat more about it. But the parting thought that got me to this point, Sebastian, is that I was out doing a bunch of client work and asking a bunch of clients what the future looked like. And I felt inadequate that if our company didn't add a technology to help our clients win at talent, that we would be a victim of the technology disruption. And that's the last thing that I want to be, right? I'm not going to lose that talent. I'm not going to lose because somebody has a technology and the client goes with them versus us. And that's the same thought challenge that I would give to your listeners is, if talent's going to remain the number one issue for SMBs, how are you going to win at talent? Because when you do, everything else takes care of itself. And so this whole thing led to how was I going to do it for our organization? It ended up building a software to help other companies do it as well. And we also are adding a bunch of consultants to the software, and then they're adding their clients as well. So that's something else we're doing. So if you have the desire to build a consulting practice, like, this is a perfect time to do it, because it's a very unique product that helps companies solve their number one issue. And so it's a win-win for you and a win-win for your client and a win-win for SMBs. So we're excited about where we're at and what the future brings. And I thank you for the opportunity to share that.
Thanks for sharing these insights, Steve. I love talking about talents, and you had a lot to offer. Thanks for your time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the High Performance CEO Show. I'm your host, Sebastian Schieke, and it's been a pleasure serving you. Please subscribe to our show on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your support helps us reach more listeners and create a bigger impact. Check out our website, sebastianschieke.com, for additional resources. Until next time, be bold, be exceptional, be outstanding, be a leader.